What's up, good people? Welcome back to the first episode of Talk with Short in a very, very long time, quarantine edition via Zoom. I'm one of your hosts, Ralan Wardlaw.
And I'm Langston Frazier. Yo, we're back. It's another week, another episode. I'm pumped. I'm pumped. It's something for me to do. I'm in the house, but I'm feeling good. I'm glad to be back on the podcast with you guys. We got a good show for you today. An amazing guest as always. But you know the deal first, Ralan. You know how we start the show every time. What we got to do first?
HBCU fact of the day. Just because we haven't been around doesn't mean the facts do not continue. So, what do you got for today?
They continue and they matter. So our HBCU fact of the day is: which state in the United States has the most HBCUs? Take a guess.
It's either North Carolina or Alabama. It's one of those two because they have a lot. It's one of those two.
Well, you're right. It's actually Alabama.
Alabama.
With 14 HBCUs across the country or across the state, I should say. So that's our
You said
14? HBCU fact of the 14. But that's our fact of the day. Short, simple, and to the point. Because we want to get into the interview with our amazing guest. So kick it off. Ralan, introduce our guest and who she is, and then we'll go from there.
This team has been the most featured by far on the podcast. The Hawks volleyball team. Our first guest ever was the head coach, Trevor. Our longest interview was the assistant, Evan Slaughter. So now we have to bring in the third member of the staff, Heather Feldman, assistant volleyball coach for the Hawks. How are you doing, Heather?
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be the first quarantine guest.
Yeah, thank you for jumping on. Quarantine, Zoom, it's a lot. I'm sure you had a lot of Zoom calls. How many Zoom calls do you think you've had with the team since quarantine?
We were doing one a week for a while, and then we bumped it at the very end to a couple week. We did like a virtual banquet. So we've done all the Zoom meetings and everything. We've been talking to recruits on Zoom, so we're very familiar with Zoom now.
Got you.
It's weird that everybody's using Zoom now, because before this whole thing happened, I've never heard of Zoom. I always use Skype, and everybody said this is happening. Everyone was like, don't use Skype, use Zoom. And I was like, okay, so I don't know. It's an interesting one.
You broke up right there. I don't know if it was like we turned or what, but like you got what you're saying. Is like as far as Zoom, like Zoom, it's not Skype, so everybody's having to adjust and just pick up on what it is. So we'll take it. Mm-hmm. So Heather, you know how we start off. Where are you from?
I tell people around here, Buffalo, New York. More specifically, I'm from Eden, New York, which is a suburb of Buffalo.
Okay. So 3 words about Buffalo.
I've been ready for this. Okay, here we go. Wings.
Oh, it better be wings.
And corn, which is more about my personal hometown. But
okay, so wings. What was the second one again?
Snow. Okay.
Got you.
All right.
Weather's always a talking point. If I talk to anybody about where I'm from, they say, "Oh, the weather up there, it's real cold." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but it really is."
So why wings, snow, and most specifically corn? Because that's more of a Midwest thing, most people would think.
So wings, because Buffalo is the home of the chicken wing. I stand by that fact. The Anchor Bar in Buffalo, not the best wing in Buffalo, but the original. Mm-hmm. Snow, because we get what's called lake effect snow, because we're by the Great Lakes. So the cold air comes down and the lake hasn't froze yet, and then we just get dumped on with snow. No snow days. I mean, we do get them, but it takes a lot of snow to stop life in Buffalo. And then corn, because in my hometown, we are the corn capital of New York State, Eden. So we have a corn festival every year in August. There's like a Miss Corn Queen. There's baseball tournaments. The fire station has the best corn. It's a very like hometown, cute, small festival. So had to give them a shot.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. I'm always I'm always interested in like the suburbs of cities because when I visited, well, when I moved after college to Indianapolis, like the only thing you know is like Pacers, Colts, and stuff like that. But some of the things that people got the most excited about were in the cities around the city of Indianapolis. So that's cool to like hear about different things about the suburbs of cities. And not just the city, because anybody, if they hear Buffalo, they can say, "Oh, the Bills" or whatever.
Yeah, because I'm not
a Bills fan.
I say Buffalo mostly because if you say Eden, they're like, where? And if you say New York, they assume New York City. So and to just say, I'm from Buffalo, and that's it.
It kind of works. For sure.
Very, very cool. So I just want to know, I guess I'll ask you a question. What's your favorite type of corn? Since you have like a corn festival every fall, like
Favorite type of corn? I'm
is it like
straight
barbecue
on the
corn,
cob.
cream corn? Okay, corn on the cob.
Yeah, I mean the best is the firemen have a booth at the festival and they do like corn on the cob and you get like the butter, you roll it in the butter and you put the salt on it. I'm a butter and salt girl, and then they do curly fries that you get on the side with it. So it's corn and curly fries at the Corn Fest. That's the best.
Now, when you say curly fries, my head perked up.
I can get into that.
I'm here for any kind of like potato, baked potato, French fries, curly fries, waffle.
You can't really do a potato wrong.
I'm here for all the fries and potatoes. So sometimes it kills you in the midsection, but it tastes so good. It just tastes so good. So have you played volleyball in school? In college, we should say, because a lot of people say, "Oh, I played in school," but they're talking high school. You played in college at Garner-Webb, right on the cusp of being in South Carolina. Not quite.
So close. I was many times.
So tell us about your time at Garner-Webb and what did you enjoy about playing volleyball there?
Yeah, I mean, being from Buffalo, I had never heard of Garner-Webb until they started recruiting me. And I was like, Gardner who? What is that? And, did some research. And I always kind of wanted to go to a college that had a little bit better weather than Buffalo. So that was a nice selling point. North Carolina is beautiful. But I took my visit and it had that feel that like, it's a very college-y feel when you get on the campus. It's in a small town, but it's very like family, community oriented. It kind of just looks like your typical, brick buildings, quad. And I just, connected with the people that I met on my visit. And that continued, when I played there, I, have my best friends are still some of my teammates that I played with. And we had a lot of cool, road trips that we took. We flew out to California and played a tournament. I actually got to play back home at Niagara University up in Buffalo my senior year, which was cool. So it was just a really good experience. And I like the school and my professors and everything. And I'm still, in contact with a lot of people from there.
So I think that's really cool that you're just in touch with your professors, because I think that's really important for any student that's in college, especially if they want to build relationships. But of course, me love to do some digging. So I did some digging on some of your background here. So you don't have one, you have 2 degrees from Garner-Webb. You have a music degree, which is I kind of did a double take. I was like, a music degree, and she's a volleyball coach. So how's that kind of tie in from the music side to your volleyball side, and what did you do musically? Was it instrumental? Was it vocal? What's the deal?
Yeah, so I was vocal. I was a singer, and Gardner-Webb was a blessing because in a lot of places it would be very difficult to play a Division I sport and be a music major, because the music major has a lot of time demands. You have concerts and rehearsals and just a lot of outside activities that you have to do. So that's why I'm in such good contact with my professors, because they were so flexible and understanding, and the coaches were too on both ends. So that was really helpful. But yeah, I was a singer. Loved some Broadway songs. That was
Hey, same here. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I did some more digging and I found the actual audio clip of you singing one of my favorite songs from Wicked, Wizard and I, which I was like, okay,
really did
Heather can sing. I was like, okay, I kind of dig this.
This is Talking with Shore. We go into your life.
Oh yeah, I sang that on my senior recital. Because you had to give a recital to graduate, and yeah, that was on it, and that was a good one. That's funny that you found that.
So kind of switching gears just a little bit. I also found out that you're really interested in kind of cancer advocacy, leukemia and lymphoma. You're really passionate about. How'd you get into that, and how does that kind of work with your everyday life as far as kind of promoting not only a product but something that you're passionate about?
Yeah. So the passion for advocacy, cancer advocacy, started from an unfortunate place. In 2016, I was actually diagnosed with stage 3 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And so I battled for about 6 months and was in remission in May of 2017. But nothing can prepare you for that. And I was a perfectly healthy 23. I just turned 23 and never had anything more than, the flu, never broken any bone. Never had injuries in sports, really nothing until that. And I was in the hospital. I got admitted for like 2 weeks, a lot of, stuff and treatments and surgeries and all this stuff. So, that advocacy definitely comes from a very personal place of having gone through it and wanting to, make the world a place where no one has to go through that. Because I just didn't know enough either. It's also about information because I had a lot of symptoms, night sweats, I'm trying to think, running cold all the time. It's been a while, shortness of breath, but those are all symptoms of lymphoma, but you don't think at 23 that even is a possibility that that's what it could be. So, and lymphoma is actually the second most prevalent cancer in young adults. And so that's also something that I'm passionate about. Just, you don't want to jump to assume anything. You don't want to assume the worst, but it is important to just kind of know, like in the back of your head, that if something doesn't feel right, just to be an advocate for yourself. And I kind of was early on. I remember calling my mom. I was like, something's just not right. This isn't like normal. Like, I'm just sick. Or I thought I had mono at one point. Like, I was like, but something is like a little off. And I just knew it. And so I kept, going in, getting tests and just telling the doctors what I was feeling. And finally I got a diagnosis. But yeah.
So was that
Oh, sorry.
Was that during your actual college career, or was it shortly after? Or
it was when I was a GA at Garner-Webb. So I had actually I was on the end. We had actually just finished my first year coaching at Garner-Webb because I went back and coached for 2 seasons there as a graduate assistant. But so it was right after we finished the season. I remember on the last road trip. Actually, we had a team dinner. It was like the last one of the year at Red Robin, and I love me some Red Robin. But and then I was like, don't feel good. I was like, this is weird. Like I just was like, something's not right. So yeah, it was during that. But fortunately, I'm all good now and in remission. And so the next year we raised over $6,000. We ran an event while I was a GA at Garner-Webb. To raise money, and it was an amazing event, and the community was so supportive, and that was that was probably the highlight of my time as a GA, just seeing the community come together like that.
So you're currently, hold on, quick question. So you're currently 3 years into remission. So are you, once you get to the 5-year point, then you can be classified cancer free?
Yes. So that's like, statistically, you're not going to get it again. So 2 more years to go. We're getting close, but
we're closer out than in.
I know, it's kind of crazy to think about, honestly, but I'm looking forward to that day, taking a trip when that scan comes back for sure.
You deserve it for that one.
So if we look forward over your time at Garner-Webb, you got some history, some really good history there. Nearly 4,500 assists, which is basically the second of all time in running Bulldogs history at Garner-Webb. So how does that kind of give you a certain mentality when you approach players that are currently at Maryland Eastern Shore? I know you've worked pretty heavily with Alana Blazovic, who also came in back in 2018 with the second team in the center, and you're also a setter as well. So.
Yeah, I think, even when I got here, she was in her third year of her career, and she'd already established herself as a really awesome setter in the MEAC. But I think having that coach on the staff that was a setter, and the setter is a very unique position. You touch the ball almost every rally, if not every rally, and there's a lot of decisions. It's a very cerebral position too. You have to make a lot of quick decisions, and just having someone that she could just talk to that had experience doing that all 4 years, and just kind of really knew what was going on through her head, and kind of, I can see why you're making this decision. Maybe this one would be a little better, or, vice versa. And just kind of understanding that. I think we built a really good rapport, and I think, that helped her in game and in practice. And it was good that I got to work, even at Antici, I've spent the past 2 years really working with them, and they've been a great group of setters to work with. So.
Yeah, I myself personally, because I'm not a big volleyball fan. I mean, I watched the game, enjoy the game. I had an aunt that coached volleyball for many years, so I had been around it. But the way I categorize the setter is kind of like your quarterback, your point guard, your person who kind of won't always get a lot of glory. Quarterbacks get a lot of glory, but the person who kind of just makes sure everybody else looks good. A lot of the work of the outside hitters and middle blockers, their work is really set up by the setter in volleyball. So, and it's kind of at the same time, even though it's like a quarterback or a point guard, it has a little bit of, for another football analogy, a little bit of office alignment in it. As far as it's not a glamour spot, not a lot of people will really pay attention to it because it's not flashy. It's kind of like a layup, not a dunk. So it's you have to but the setter is very essential to, if you have a good setter, your volleyball team, it can make other people look very well. I mean, now that I've been here and I've been watching and having to follow volleyball a little closer, if the setter is bad, it will show up very quickly. So
yeah, interesting about volleyball. Everyone knows the hitters. Everyone sees the kills. I mean, that's like the point scoring. It's exciting. But if setters and liberos are the unsung people on that team, and they don't, if you're really great, you stand out and you're like, oh, dang. If you're pretty bad, you stand. Usually setters and liberos, they're those consistent players that just get their job done, and I think they're really important. So shout out to setter libero love right here.
For those of you who don't know, the liberos are usually the ones that are in a different color jersey when you come to the volleyball game. Because I know my first college volleyball game, when I got there and I saw the different color jersey, I was like, what's that? And then somebody
what's the deal?
Yeah, I was like, what's, and then somebody said libero, and then I said, okay, cool, they're, So then I started thinking, does that mean they're the best player? Because then this is so bad.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know. I was like, oh, so does libero mean they're the best player? Or does it mean, they're trying to hide that person? Because I was like, if they got the different color jersey, they're trying to hide them because they're supposed to be the best. But if you put somebody who's not good there, then the other team won't hit to them. Because it's like, that's the good person. Don't hit to them, but they're really bad. Like, I thought it was like
I like your thinking.
It was like I thought it was like a chess, like a cat and mouse thing. Like, I was like, they, because and part of that was because I had seen, like, when I would just go to games in college, there were some liberos who were not good. And then there were some that were just out of sight. So I was like, that's what made me think. I was like, it must be either the best player or the worst player. Most of the time it's the best player, so they just trying to stick somebody out there. I mean, I knew nothing. I knew nothing.
You learned a lot.
I learned a lot. I knew, I wasn't crazy. I knew, 25 wins you a set. If he goes to fifth set, it's like, I knew small things like that. But the strategy of the game, I wasn't very knowledgeable on. But I mean, everybody has to learn more. So
Exactly.
So one of the things that we kind of should have touched on first before we got into the whole spots and positions and volleyballs and setters is what led you to come to Maryland Eastern Shore. Like it's kind of a distance away from New York and especially Garner-Webb as well.
Yeah. I was a GA at Garner-Webb, and so my time there was coming to an end. That position ends when you graduate. And so I got my MBA and just was kind of applying for jobs and just kind of seeing that summer what kind of stuck. And Maryland Eastern Shore appealed to me for many reasons, but I'm from a small town. Garner-Webb is a small town campus, so I'm very comfortable in the smaller, town situations. And so, coming to Maryland Eastern Shore, I liked that it felt, like a family. Even just talking on the interview on the phone with people, it just felt, that I could connect with them. And, when I got on campus for the first time, that was, confirmed. And it's just been a really great place to work, and specifically in the athletic department. And, I love the girls, and it's been a treat. So.
And coming to work here at Eastern Shore, when you got to actual Princess Anne, did you think Princess Anne is really like a buried diamond, or is it something to where you feel like the kids don't embrace it the way that they could? Because and the reason I asked that is because a lot of the girls on your team especially are like big, they like to travel to Salisbury and like go that. So do you think, because you're from a smaller town, I am as well, like that sometimes the people who are at Eastern Shore don't take full advantage of Princess Anne, or do you feel like it's good because it's a nice little balance there with Salisbury?
Yeah, I think it's nice. I mean, hilariously, I live in Salisbury, and Salisbury is like the biggest town I've ever lived in. Like 2 Chipotles in Salisbury. When I went to Garner-Webb, we had to drive 40 minutes if you want a Chipotle. So
same as South Carolina State. I didn't eat Chipotle until I got to college.
It's huge to me. No, but I think what makes small towns have the charm they do and that people like to live there is the people, because there isn't as much to do. That's just a fact. But it's really because there's not as much to do, you form, I think, closer and stronger bonds with the people that are around you, because sometimes you have to make your own good time or fun and stuff like that. And so that's what I think the appeal of small towns is. So.
All right, cool. So switching to what we're in now, COVID-19, quarantine, how has the quarantine changed how you do your job, from March to now? Now we're 3 months into quarantine and the COVID-19 pandemic.
I think it's made you think outside the box, particularly with like recruiting. We're in a dead period until now, the end of July. So you can't take people on visits. You can't go out and see people play. So it's definitely put a premium on technology, your Zoom calls, your sending video, telephone, trying to send the virtual tours that we have, just trying to get people to experience the family atmosphere that we have, because it's very strong on our team. And it's definitely why we like to bring people on visits, is because come on a visit here, you feel that sense of family, and people really enjoy that. So finding a way to convey that to recruits without bringing them on campus has been a challenge. I also think it's definitely made me realize the importance, as cliche as it is, of like a work-life balance. Right before the quarantine hit, we were going like Mach 10. We had like multiple recruit visits the week before it hit. We had been recruiting every weekend. We were about to set up a sport court tournament, like 6 sport courts in the gym. I mean, we had midterm week. It was insane. And then all of a sudden it was like 0 to 180. Like we were done with everything. And I think now I'm like itching to get back in the gym. I'm going to be so grateful when I get to see our team again and get to coach a match again and just kind of get things back to normal. But I think we went from one extreme to another. So I'd love to get that balance when we actually do get started again and a little bit more. So.
What do you think that balance will kind of look like? Because all of us can just speculate. Even the news, politicians, everybody's just speculating because no one knows. So what do you think some version of that middle ground will be once we come out of this on the other side?
Yeah, I'm hopeful that it's, that the girls will be in class, in-person class and on campus practicing every day. And hopefully that's a little similar, but I think more so taking time in like either the mornings or the evenings, because I think a lot of people have been diving into, podcasts or reading or, growing themselves personally. And I think once we get into the hustle and bustle of things, that shouldn't necessarily stop. So I think I'm going to be an advocate for, get up in the morning, take 15 minutes to read. You're not going to have as much time as you do now, or make sure you still, our athletes will get their workout in. But like for me, I've been working out every day from home. And that wasn't the case during season. So hopefully trying to find at least 20, maybe 30 minutes to work out still, because it's been very head clearing and, really helps. So just little things like that, I think that we can implement and not completely put them on the back burner, even though we're excited to get back to normal.
Do you think that the atmosphere, because I think one of the things that's a major driver for not only us at Maryland Eastern Shore for the volleyball team is having that big, huge crowd. And I would say one of the things that I love about Maryland Eastern Shore is when we have a volleyball game, especially if it's on a Friday night, the gym is packed. At least after the first set, it's slammed and everybody's there. And what do you think that'll have an effect on the student athletes and the coaching and just kind of like the atmosphere of the volleyball team?
Yeah, we miss the fans. Like I'm hoping that we will be able to have some sort of fan, engagement in the fall. We don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm very hopeful because you're right. That's such a big part of the experience there. And the girls love playing in front of their home crowd. They get hype from it. And so, I'm hopeful, but if not, I think the nice thing about it is I think this pandemic has made people very appreciative of even the ability to play volleyball. We haven't been in the gym since March. So I'm hopeful, even if we don't have the fans, we can find some way to engage them, even if it's not watching the match live, and I know our players will still be excited for the games because they're getting to play volleyball. So it's hopeful that there's some fans because I miss them, but we'll see what happens.
All right. So also, I know we all are, what's the word I'm looking for? Because we're in quarantine, we're all aware of what's going on in the country and in the world. And so I know even Salisbury has had some protests. I don't know if they're doing it up in Buffalo. I know Washington, D.C. What's your feelings like as far as everything that's going on protest-wise and just what the mood of the country is? Because for me personally, we went from a pandemic to where we couldn't go anywhere to now you have to get out and figure out something to do or feel like you can express your voice in some kind of way. So what's your feelings like on that right now how the country is sitting at this current moment?
Yeah, I think anybody just feels different. There's been some, in the past, some protests, and this, police brutality and racism issue isn't new, but there's something about the time that we're in right now that's it's very powerful. And I don't know if partially that is because of the pandemic, because we're all very in tune to what's happening in the world right now. I'm not really sure, but it just feels different. And I'm hopeful, working at an HBCU as, a white coach, I don't fully understand, what it's like. And I'm hopeful that myself, along with, other, white Americans can really take the time, because we have it, to actually educate and donate and, cause some actual change in the system. And so I'm hopeful that that is the case. I know that there's a lot of social media, activism going on right now. And I'm hopeful and optimistic that people are posting and they're also doing the work to educate themselves and to, actually bring about some change is enough, to be completely honest. And so I'm hopeful.
I think that's a really good point. At the time this episode is being recorded, it's crazy. I'm living currently right now in Delaware, doing an assistant pro job, and my route to work is very simple, but it passes by 3 sections of a Tanger, outlet, very high populated area. And 2 nights ago, I was on the way home, and obviously I made the right-hand turn coming down the long street to get to my street, and I'm passing by the outlets, and there's 30, 40 cops, state troopers, in the parking lots of the various on both sides of the street. Horseback police as well, and the place was shut down. Like, it took me an extra 5 minutes, 10 minutes to get home, and I didn't realize at the time, what's going on. I was like, it's June 1st, malls should be opening in Delaware, and they should start having people back in, and it's, 5 o'clock, outlets are still open at that time, and, Delaware started to reopen, beaches started to reopen. And I was like, okay, so are they there because of crowd control? And then it kind of hit me. I was like, oh, because obviously I'm on work all day, I'm not on my phone, so I haven't seen anything that's going on. I was like, oh. They were planning to kind of have a protest and possibly a riot of some sort. Hopefully it didn't get that bad. I don't think anything happened from what I've heard in the area. But it's kind of very surreal that something that you can watch on TV and with the news, from CNN to whatever news source you watch and see it on TV, to kind of say, oh, that couldn't happen to me, not in my backyard, and less than 3 minutes away from me, it's happening right there. So it's kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, I saw something on social media that said all 50 states have had some type of protest in some kind of way. And I think it's because, I remember as a high schooler, I think I was just early in college when Trayvon Martin happened. And that hit me probably the hardest. Instead, like, that, for me personally, it hit me really hard because he was 17 when it happened and I was 18. So I was literally like freaking out because I'm like, Skittles is my favorite candy. I wore hoodies all the time because it was, you in the college. So I'm like, how many times have I been in that situation? And so I think probably since that day, because even before that, even though you know what's going on, you're aware what's going on, and you voice, with your friends, I think at that moment, that's when it kind of hit me that, like, it really was taking a shift, because that was when my dad told me, he was like, because I have older parents. My parents are in their 60s, so they were born in the 50s. So my parents got out of high school in the 70s. So because of that, I have firsthand talks with people who went to integrated schools in the South and protests in the school. Just last week I was talking to my mom. She was telling me about protests they had in the school about not going to class and teachers like going back and forth. And I think for now, that's what is hitting me the most, that 40, 50 years ago, we're literally in the same spot almost. And it's kind of frustrating as a Black person in America, especially Black man in America, that we haven't gotten past it. And like, I mean, I never think that, I've never thought that it would be like, oh, everything's going to be status quo, everything's going to be, straight across the board, because the world is never going to be black and white. It's always going to be gray area. But you would think that what we're seeing with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and these kind of situations, you would think that it's just blatantly happening like this, and then you would think some call to action would happen from the top on down, and it feels like it's not happening. And I think that's why the protests and the looting is happening the same way it is, because if you look at videos from like 1992 with Rodney King riots, it literally looks the exact same almost 30 years later before this. And so I guess that's probably the most frustrating thing for me, that, we can't, like, as a country, just get forward. Like, we can't move forward. It's always like we think we're moving forward. People can think it's getting better. And I've always said there's just some people who don't have the mindset to keep it moving forward. And I think that's probably more frustrating than anything, that even if you want to try to, say it's not happening or say it's better, it's not. And that's why I think sometimes when people say, oh, it's better than it once was, I don't think it is, because I'm getting, like, my parents telling me, oh, this is what we were doing in 1969 or 70 when we integrated. And it's 2020, 50 years later, and things are still happening. So that's why it's one of those things where it's like, I'm like, when is everybody going to really truly start trying to get better? And
Right.
I think it starts with, like, I was talking to some of my friends, just doing what you can just in your area. But even something as simple as, if your friend says something that's just blatantly out of pocket, checking them right then and not going and talking to somebody else about it. Do you think that was wrong? Like, if you feel like something's wrong, you say something about it. So that's what I have to say on that. But
So you talk about kind of moving forward, with the pandemic and kind of like the social injustice. Heather, to you, what kind of advice would you have for kind of relating to both parts, student athletes, both here and across the country, kind of who've either had their season cut short due to the pandemic, or, they want to go be active in their community and protest and hopefully do it peacefully. And what advice do you have for incoming students who might not get the opportunity to start their college experience as far as a student athlete and kind of a higher education realm of things, if things don't go back to normal?
I think, with the student athlete part, we've been talking to our incoming kids, just trying to give them as much information as we have at the moment, because it's still very up in the air, and just trying to, prepare them for the fact that it might be different, but that it's still, a huge opportunity and a blessing to be able to play, collegiate volleyball. And I know it's hard for me to imagine, the spring sports that got their seasons cut, especially, those seniors, just get taken out from under you. And so I'm hoping that doesn't become the case with volleyball, but you never know, what's coming down the pipeline. So just trying to, as cliche as it sounds, take every day as, because it could be, you could get cut short. I don't think anyone thought that the last day of baseball or softball or track or anything was going to be the last day. And so I think having that experience makes you more grateful for what you have, and that any opportunity that you get to play is, an opportunity that you get to play. And with regards to, the social justice movement, I think athletes are more now than ever, going to use their voice, and they have, a powerful voice in the community, not even just professional athletes, but student athletes, and speaking out for, what they believe in. And I think as coaching staffs, it's going to be important around the country to support that voice and to let it be heard, and to not, stifle that, as best that we can, and to, try and understand and relate and have tough conversations between your teams, between staffs. And I think that's going to be really important moving forward to hopefully, see some change that we want to see in this country.
So you talk about staying connected, being active, kind of switching to a lighter topic as it relates to volleyball, and kind of wrapping up this podcast. Every year, Maryland Eastern Shore has a huge banquet, athletic banquet with supporters. obviously our student athletes, coaches, staff, volunteers, to kind of say, it's kind of like the ESPYs of Maryland Eastern Shore, as we kind of like to call it, different awards. And obviously we're kind of recording this episode early in the week. So when this episode comes out, the actual players who are getting awards have already been announced for volleyball. So what are your thoughts on the volleyball winners for this year, and kind of your thoughts of the overall season from the Harrys?
Yeah. So can I say am I allowed to say who won our awards? Okay. Just double checking. Yeah. So we had, our team went through a lot this past year. We had 6 new kids into the program. So it was basically half returners, half newcomers to the program. And so we spent a lot of the season, finding our identity and figuring out what sort of team we're going to be. And I think that's going to pay dividends this fall when we get into it. But they were a great group to coach, a funny group of kids. The bus rides, the travel was, Ralan can attest, he came on some trips with us. They're just a fun group, and yeah.
I found my Facebook page and just started scrolling, and they were like, "Hey, what are you talking about right here?" And then I was like, "I have no idea." They were down at like 2010, but it also let me know that I wasn't saying anything crazy like that in high school. So
there you go. So yeah, it was a really fun group. They worked hard, and I think we saw a lot of big games. We learned a lot of lessons, and that's going to, pay dividends for the fall. But let's see, our awards. Most improved was Lydia Chetty. She came in from a junior college, and she grew so much in her 2 years at Maryland Eastern Shore as a player, as a person. She left one of my favorite kids in our program. She's just a joy to be around, and she worked her butt off, especially her senior year, to be a really important factor on our team. And so she very much deserved that award. Our coach's award was Anitsa Yastratievich. She is, yeah. So she is kind of like the best role play. She would fill any role we needed on the team. She's played outside. She was a DS at some points. The loudest person on the bench, always cheering on her teammates. And so it was day in and day out, very consistent. So we love that about her. And our MVP was Ivana Blazovic, kind of our do-everything setter. I mean, she set really well, but she shut down outsides with her block. She was offensive at the net. She played good defense. She was, a senior captain on our team. She kind of just was a glue. And I can think of one of the matches when we played Delaware State at Delaware State.
Yeah.
In particular stands out because we were in the 5th set, and she refused to lose, and she took that over. She had a couple blocks, I believe, got a kill, and then ended it, I think, with an ace. Correct me if I'm wrong, but she was a very big part of that win. And so I think that kind of just sums up that she could take over a match and was really important to our team.
Yeah, that Delaware State game was a weird game because weird match because it started off with, if anybody can visualize this, the entire Delaware State band was in the stands when the match started. They played the Star Spangled Banner. They played like throughout the first set. So the atmosphere of the gym was really loud, really a lot of energy. And then Heather, was it like maybe the beginning of the second set or like halfway through the first set? They just walked out, just left. And so it went from loud band to just like kind of quiet almost. Mm-hmm. And so then we played like that for like a set or two. And then by the time the 4th, 5th set came, it was loud again. So it was like, even the crowd that game, the emotion.
Yeah, the crowd, the match. I mean, we went up 2-0, and then they took the next 2. It was the most up and down match in terms of everything that I've been part of in a while. It was crazy.
Yeah, the emotions of that one was crazy. I was kind of sitting over there like
I was exhausted after that game. I didn't even play.
Yeah, I was tired.
On the bus ride home, we got dinner, and then Delaware State's not that far from us, but I was asleep on the ride home. I was like, I just was drained emotionally and from that match. But Glad to get W. So
but yeah, that's what when you said that, I can remember that match very well, because that was once the conference season started. I was like sometimes with you guys, sometimes with basketball, but it was one of the conference games I got to go to, and it was a good one to see.
Mm-hmm.
So let's jump into this last quick question. I guess it's the $1 million question that everybody wants to know. Within the next 5 years, where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself doing? What's next on the books for Heather?
Wow, that is a question even I sometimes don't know the answer to. I think right now, trying to get our team to a MEAC championship, I'm very invested in our program, and I think our players and our staff it's a special group, and I think we can do some special things in the next year and upcoming years. So I want to win a MEAC championship. Further down the pipeline, just continue to grow as a volleyball coach, and kind of see where that takes me. But right now, I'm trying to win the MEAC ring.
Hey, that's not a bad deal to win, especially.
And
with
I would love
team.
the MEAC ring, because then, as the SID, I would get one too.
There you go.
There you go.
So yeah, I look at all the coaches with the teams I work closely with. I say, hey, I'm invested, because
we'll try and get you that ring for you.
I'm doing my job. I'm doing my job the best I can, but I say I can't cheer. That's the thing. I cannot cheer, which is hard, because I personally know the girls, and your team out of more than anybody. They just stop in, and my office is like,
hey, how you doing?
They love stopping in Raylan's office.
They just chill. So if we're like, just playing, and this is, I can be kind of quiet, but I remember like we were at the MEAC tournament for basketball, and our women's team was about to beat Bethune-Cookman, and there was like no professionalism at all. Like I'm yelling, just go, and so I can only imagine what I would do in a MEAC championship game. But let's get there.
And you never know, we might get it at home, because we've had it in the Heights before, so you never know. It might happen in the Heights. Who knows what's going to happen?
It'll still be at Howard this year, right? The tournament.
Assuming everything's normal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Right now, we don't know. Schedules are all over the place. Like I was talking, I actually talked with Trevor one time, and I was saying, I think in my opinion, what's the best solution that we probably could get to have class and everything start in August would be like everybody come back to campus, and you have to wear a mask at all times. Like when you're out, if you inside your room, you don't have to wear one. But if you out, I feel like that's probably our best solution, like right now. But then also too, because we have people working on vaccine by the day. I mean, we could wake up 2 weeks from now, vaccine. This is how we're going to distribute it, and then July 4th, everybody's having barbecues and cookouts and celebrating, and everybody's on the beach.
That's the thing with this pandemic, and especially at the beginning, things happen so fast.
Yes, yeah.
You had to be paying attention to the news, because one day, it started with the NBA getting shut down, and then it was, NCAA shut down, and then it was, stay at home, wear a mask. Like, it escalated very quickly, and so I think you're right. It could de-escalate just as quickly. We have no idea. So.
And that's
Heather, it's been fun. We're glad to be part of your quarantine entertainment, as we like to call it, and we thank you for coming on the episode. But before we go, where can the good people find you on social media?
I am on Instagram at hfeldman1. Twitter, I don't use it as much, but my username is feather_Heldman. That's a throwback to high school, just switching my name. And then Hbcus on Instagram, I run that account. So be sure to give us a follow for all the upcoming volleyball news for this fall.
If you don't, go ahead.
I do not have a TikTok. I watch a lot of TikToks. That has been a quarantine activity of mine, but I do not have one.
Any quarantine snacks?
Quarantine snacks. I've been very into Boom Chicka Pop, but not the bags, like the poppable bags that you can put in the microwave, which I didn't really know existed somehow until quarantine, but I've been very obsessed with those. So
Yeah. I kind of been on the cashews heavy, trying to get myself back together.
Oh man, gotta love quarantine entertainment, folks.
Right. I gotta say, thanks for giving me a reason to, get dressed and look presentable. That happens few and far between in quarantine. So thank you for that.
I wore pants that required a belt for the first time, like a week ago, and it's just I had to take pictures with for a wedding that I'm in. But
It's weird.
One hour. It was like I put them on, and I was like, I had them on for like an hour, and once the pictures were over, I was like, dude, let's
back to shorts.
Shorts. It's time for that. Thanks for coming, Heather. And also, guys, you can always find all Hawks sports at ES Hawks Sports on everything. ES Hawks on Instagram, Eastern Shore Hawks on Facebook, and then ES Hawks Sports on Twitter, and then all the handles go from there. We're in the midst of the digital Harry, so go on our social media accounts and look at everything and see who's the big winners, including the volleyball team. And, we still have some coming up, so just be on the lookout. And Athlete of the Year will be out soon. So
very soon. So we'll keep our fingers crossed and see if it's one from the volleyball team. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget, use the hashtag TalkShore. Send us an email at mdtalkshore@gmail.com for any of future guests you want to hear from, any questions you want to ask. We're always open to suggestions. And it's very weird that we're saying this, but we were in the middle of filming Hawk Talk when this whole thing happened. So we were supposed to go to MEAC tournament, come back, do another 2 or 3 shows, and be done for the season. That did not happen. But as of right now, Hawk Talk will be back next season. So we are keeping our fingers crossed with Will DeBoer and the whole crew in the digital media department with their great help making the show. But yeah, that's it. Don't forget to subscribe. We're on Apple Podcasts, wherever you can get your podcast. Make sure you leave a review, you share. We're also on YouTube. Hopefully the recording comes out okay. That should be out within the next couple of days. And always use the hashtag TalkShore. I'm Langston Frazier.
I'm Ralan Warlaw.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Another great episode of Talking to Shore. See you later, guys.
Thanks, everybody.